We're excited to have everybody here. Welcome. GlobalWE is a shared interest group of the Harvard Alumni Association, the HAA. As such, our programs and volunteer opportunities comply with the HAA's community expectations, including respecting the rights, differences, and dignity of others. Those taking part are expected to demonstrate honesty, integrity, and civility in those activities and are accountable for their conduct. We reserve the right to exclude from participation any person whose inappropriate behavior adversely affects the safety, well-being, and inclusion of community members. GlobalWE is dedicated to the empowerment of women through education, dialogue, and connection among individuals working for women's rights and freedoms worldwide. We highlight and raise awareness about issues concerning women's empowerment all over the world, including, but not limited to, education, political rights, freedom from violence, women's health, and economic empowerment. GlobalWE is an organization that is firmly committed to political neutrality. Our apolitical position allows everyone who joins our events, regardless of political or ideological perspectives, to participate freely and openly. As well, with all our programs, we would like to remind our audience that the statements and positions expressed by our speakers today are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of Harvard alumni for global women's empowerment or Harvard University. Our board is as global as our interests, with representatives in the US, Canada, Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Please feel free to share your location in the chat, as I mentioned earlier, so we know where everyone else is coming from. If you have not already, please mute yourselves and we can begin. I would now like to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Estera Borsha, who's vice chair of our programs team. Welcome, Estera.
Thank you, Eliza. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Women as Agents of Change. This event has a very special story. Several years ago, before the world paused during COVID, I had the privilege of standing at the UN to present a spoken word piece titled Women as Agents of Change. At that time, it was a simple expression of what I had witnessed as a clinician, a leader, a woman, privileged to walk alongside many women through both profound hardship and extraordinary resilience. I never imagined that one spoken word would become something much bigger. The message continued to grow because it reflected something universal. When one woman has the courage to share her story, she gives others permission to find their own voice. Earlier this year, during our Harvard Alumni Global Women's Empowerment Expo, we invited women to submit an artistic piece with their response with their expressions of leadership, hope, and transformation. The response exceeded what we expected. The depth, the vulnerability, the creativity, and wisdom shared through poetry, spoken word, visual art, music, and storytelling reminded us that these pieces deserved more than a few moments and a conference agenda. They deserved a space of their own. That is why we're here today. This gathering is more than an art showcase. It is a celebration of the power of the human expression. It's a reflection of our journeys that shape us and the courage that it takes to transform pain into purpose, silence into voice, and experience into impact. From a neuroscience perspective, our stories are far more than entertainment. They are the brain's oldest pathways for connection. When we hear another person's stories, our brains activate the networks that involved in empathy, emotional understanding, and even meaning making. Today, this event is an invitation to listen deeply, not only to the voices of the women sharing their work, but also to the reflections these stories awaken within each of us. Because change begins with the story. And when women tell their stories, they don't simply change their own lives, they inspire families, they strengthen communities, and help shape a more compassionate, equitable world. Welcome to Women as Agents of Change. May today's stories move us, challenge us, and remind us that together we're creating lasting change. Before we start, I'd like to take a screenshot for social media. Is everyone okay with that? If yes, please kindly turn on your cameras.
Okay, everyone, I'm giving you all a few seconds to turn on your cameras. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I'm moving to the next screen. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm now pleased to introduce Lavi Wilson, who is connecting with us from South Carolina. Welcome. Please introduce yourself, tell us what inspired you, and then go ahead and read your piece.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lavi Wilson. I am a social worker. I have the pleasure of serving as associate chair and associate professor at North Carolina University. I also have a small solo telehealth practice where I practice therapy. My story comes from my experience after I had a doctor's appointment, and I wanted to make sure that I educated everybody and shared with everybody what I went through. And so my piece is called Every 6 Months. I'm a wife, mother of 3 boys, a social worker, a therapist, a professor, a friend, a sister, a family member, a colleague. I've listened to people in some of the darkest periods of their life and helped them find words for what they could not say themselves. None of these roles prepared me for an abnormal mammogram. My mother had stage 1 breast cancer. I learned on Facebook that a distant older cousin, a woman who could pass for my twin, had breast cancer. My sorority sister had breast cancer at 40. My husband's best friend found out about hers at 30. These events should have triggered something in me. They didn't. At 39, I scheduled my first mammogram for my 40th birthday. 4 days after that, 4 days after my birthday, I was still recovering from the delivery of my third son via C-section. In recovery, I made a promise to myself. Once I'm done breastfeeding, I'll go. 1 year later, at 41, I sat in that first appointment with no fear at all. The room was calm, the technician was nice and kind, and I left feeling accomplished. A couple of weeks later, a letter came in. It said something about dense breast tissue and annual mammograms. I put the letter in a folder, filed it away, didn't think about it again. At 42, a strange chest pain sent me in early for my annual mammogram. Still no fear. Maybe it was the stress of moving to a new state with 3 kids. I left wondering why I was even thinking about this pain at all. One day after my appointment, the phone rang. On the other end, I heard, "Your mammogram is abnormal. Come back in 6 months." This is when the 6-month journey started. 6 months is its own kind of weather. You wake up to it. You scroll on your phone late at night looking for an answer. In quiet moments, you imagine worst case scenarios you don't even want to say out loud. You carry it alone, pressed down beneath everything else that needs you. At 43, at my first 6-month follow-up, I cried before they called my name. They noted that in my chart. I'm a woman who fixes things for a living, and I couldn't fix this. There was a small oval mass in my right breast, a tiny mass in my left, calcifications in both, then an ultrasound, then the same words again. Come back in 6 months. And there it is. I became a woman with a screening journey. The mass in my right breast is benign. I still have to go every 6 months. A high-risk clinic still follows me because of my family history, and it keeps me vigilant. I started talking, and I found out that I wasn't alone. Other women I knew had the same story. I also found out that the person across the desk doesn't always meet you there. Then you get told there's nothing wrong, and in the same breath, you're told come back in 6 months for another mammogram and another ultrasound. When I asked for a second opinion, the room got cold. Advocating for yourself is hard enough when you're scared. It gets harder when the person you're advocating to treats you like the problem. As a social worker, as a therapist, as a professor, I ask a second question. Not only how do I get through this, but how do we teach the next generation of social workers to listen to other women going through it? I started applying for grants that will put real tools in the hands of future professionals. Tools for the moment they sit across from a woman who just got the call and has no idea what comes next. And then I started writing piece like this. The clinical information matters. So does the story. The story is what makes another woman pick up the phone and make the appointment. This is what change looks like from the inside. One conversation leads to another conversation that leads to a writing. And that writing reaches a woman who needed it today. I was her. This one was for her. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing such a profoundly moving and courageous piece. What you offered us is more than a personal story. It's an invitation into the most vulnerable spaces a person can experience. The uncertainty, what we fear and what we hope. Your words remind us that healing doesn't begin with a diagnosis or treatment plan. It often begins with the moment we allow ourselves to be seen, we ask for support and remain present. Your story captures the reality that is often overlooked. That fear begins with long before the diagnosis is made. It lives in the waiting and the unanswered questions and the stories. As you move through that season of uncertainty, how did you intentionally cultivate hope without denying the reality of your fears?
I will say first, I accept my fears. I tried to ignore them and minimize them at first, but then I realized that wasn't working. And I knew that I needed to advocate for myself when I felt like I wasn't getting the right kind of care. And so I said, even though I'm in this fear and I'm sitting in it, I still have to kind of push through. My faith carries me through. So prayer, meditation, I keep positive people around me. Knowledge. I try to learn as much as I can. I watch, I listen to other people's stories. I try to share my stories. And then there's my family. I have a great support system. My husband sits with me in the waiting room and waits for me, and he'll send me memes and information to kind of get my mind off the wait while I'm waiting. I have my family, my sisters, my friends. They will send me messages like, when is your next appointment? Is there anything you need? And then I have 3 sons who pull me back into the reality of, I need a snack, or I want to watch this, or can you fix my iPad? And I think all of those things give me the hope. It lets me know that it's okay to have fears, but it's also okay to have hope and to be positive.
Absolutely. And that it is okay to advocate for yourself. I think that the most moving part of your story was finding your voice and being able to stand in a room with a doctor who makes you feel like you're the problem. That really touched me because as women we have to learn to do that every day, even when it feels hard. And in that moment, I felt this just moment of just touch with you when you said that. And so proud of you doing that. Right. That's a part of the facing the fear, is learning what you need in that moment. So that's amazing. And it sounds like you have an amazing support system that kind of carries you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. And let me hand it over to Gloria for our next segment.
Thank you, Estera. I'm Gloria Gwemudia, a member of the GlobalWE and a new member of the programs team. Let's now move to our second artist for today. I'm pleased to introduce Damini Chopra from Mumbai. And a little bit about her is also in the links. So welcome, please. Damini, tell us about your piece and what inspired you.
Hey everyone, I am Damini, and for anybody who doesn't understand my accent, record this and go watch The Simpsons and come back. I am an actor in India, and I also have my own NGO, which takes AI learning to non-English speakers. India has 60% students that are below the poverty line and they don't learn in English, and there is no curriculum to teach them AI or computer science in non-English. I am filling that gap. To give you a little perspective on what my piece is about, in India, actors are supposed to be very, very neutral. If you so much as even tweet something slightly political, people don't want to touch you at all. You're not supposed to have opinions, you're just supposed to perform. So, trying to do something for society is a bigger challenge here if you are in arts and entertainment. It directly impacts your career. But my piece is about not letting that fear get in the way of what you want to do. It's titled Still She Chooses. Rani's husband used to beat her up mercilessly. She had nowhere to go, no education, no financial independence, nothing that gave her the confidence that she could stand on her own feet. So she stayed until one day his anger turned towards Saisha, their 6-year-old daughter. That was the moment that something changed. Rani ran with her daughter, but he found them, dragged them back to the small little slum that they lived in. The neighbors watched, some whispered, others spoke openly. They couldn't understand how a woman could be so disobedient. But Rani was determined. She ran again. Today, Rani works 18 hours a day, washing bathrooms, scrubbing utensils in multiple homes, doing whatever it takes to keep Saisha away from that life. They now live in even more cramped situations than before, more uncertain, but definitely freer. There's always the fear that he might find them again. And yet, every morning, Rani sits beside Saisha and braids her hair, slowly and carefully, as if she's weaving something more than just the hair. It's as if she's braiding hope into her daughter's future. Rani did manage to get Saisha admitted to a school, but it was not easy. She stood in front of the school administration and simply said, I want her to study. I want her to be able to get a job. Saisha was admitted, but it was a vernacular medium school, one that, like many others, did not have access to tools that are shaping the future. Children like Saisha are bright, curious, eager to learn, but still being left behind in a world moving faster than their classrooms. The first time Saisha and her classmates were given a computer by Damini Chopra Foundation, they touched it hesitantly, as if it might just judge them. They felt like they did not quite belong in that world. But something shifted. Within a few months, they were using it confidently, creating with it, building simple AI tools, generating images, asking questions without hesitation in their language. One day, Rani walked into the classroom, still in her work clothes, perspiration from the day's labor visible on her face. She looked at her daughter and said with quiet certainty, My daughter will be an engineer. She will marry by choice, not by force. Whenever I share this story in the entertainment industry, the response is familiar: skepticism, the kind that we as women are conditioned to accept. I'm an actor, still finding my place, walking into audition rooms where decisions are made in minutes. I was told to choose, focus on one path, be one thing first, wait. But the realities unfolding in classrooms like Saisha's cannot wait. Their futures cannot wait. So I began the work anyway. Through my foundation, access has started reaching children who had been standing just outside opportunity, especially those vernacular medium schools which are at the risk of being excluded from this rapidly changing technology driven world. We don't have a finished solution, we're just beginning as of now. Similarly, in another part of the world, in Afghanistan in 2020, a woman once tried to run. She had reached out to me for support, to be able to protect her daughter. She held her daughter's hand tightly, moving through fear, through uncertainty, knowing that if she stayed, her child's fate would be decided for her. She was trying to outrun a system that would never allow her daughter to choose freely. Different place, different circumstances, but the instinct was the same: to protect, to change the course of a girl child's life, to refuse what had been decided for them by others, even if it meant risking the mother's own life. Back home, Rani finishes her daughter's second braid. She ties it with the red ribbon, worn out, but it still holds. Saisha picks up her bag and steps out. The world she's walking into is changing, and now slowly she's being given tools to change with it. Change does not always come from power. Sometimes it begins in small determined acts. In a mother who refuses to let her child's life be decided for her. In a woman who runs not once but again and again until she creates a way forward. In those who build even when they are told to wait. Women like Rani, women across the world, women who may never be called leaders, but who shape the future anyway. They don't always hold titles, but they hold the line. They carry futures forward quietly, persistently, relentlessly. They are not waiting for the change, they are the ones creating it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damini. Your spoken word was more than a story. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Your words reminds us that behind every statistics on domestic violence, displacement, or conflict is a human being with dreams, dignity, and a voice that deserves to be heard. What struck me most is that your story is not only about survival, it is about reclaiming identity, rediscovering purpose, and in sharing your truth, you have created space for others to recognize their own strength and to believe that healing and hope remain possible, even after profound adversity. One of the most powerful ideas you shared is that women are so often told they must choose between different parts of themselves, their culture or their freedom, their strength or their compassion, their voice or their acceptance. Yet you remind us we don't have to choose. Could you share what that statement means to you today and how embracing the fullness of your identity has shaped your journey?
Thank you, Gloria, for those kind words and that question. I think that statement that we're forced to choose is not just true for third world countries. I think it's very true for every woman who's told that, hey, you either can be a mom or make your career. You can either sit at home with your children or maybe go out on a hike. And I don't think men are, forced to deal with that pressure. If a father is not present at home, it's accepted. If a mother is not, it's frowned upon. Men have that choice, women don't. And to the women who are quietly saying, hey, I'm not going to choose. I'm going to do everything that I want to do, and you better be okay with it. I'm not going to conform to your standards of what I need to do, inspired me, because I think this is a universal gender problem and not just a country problem. And embracing that changed my life because I'm a lot more fearless. I think that translates into work also. I am okay now. If I don't book an audition, I am not eager to please. I just think that's embracing that statement has helped me chart my own path in my career as well.
Thank you. And now I'll hand it over to Malika.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Good afternoon, good morning, depending upon where you are in the world. My name is Dr. Malika Glover. I'm a member of GlobalWE's programs team. Let's now move to our final artist for today. I'm now pleased to introduce Amanda Wild, who is joining us from Spain. She's a researcher focused on the intersection of maternal health, psychedelic science, and translational neuroscience. Let us all please welcome Amanda. Please tell us what inspired you, and then go ahead and read your piece.
Thanks so much. I think what inspired me for this piece was just one of those experiences where I was nice and it wasn't enough, and then I was ambitious and it wasn't enough. And this really came from that feeling like, as a woman, you just cannot win. So my piece is called Audacious Ambition. So hot until it's not. So long as I smile, not that smile. Less teeth, please. Less vagina dentata, please. Less evidence that I could devour what devours me. How very unbecoming of me to be becoming. If you could just hold the line between HR and hell, between performance review and who I became when I split in two. You see me stretched between work and home, spilt milk and stardust on your spreadsheets. Work-life balance, as if my body is a seesaw and not a sacred art studio. Did you see me stretch beyond the stars? See me bridge heaven and earth? That's how I got you here. Made every bone in your body in a dress. Not that dress. Is that what she's wearing? You don't like it? I stitched it together with my very own rage. Let out the seams to make room for divinity. Palatability was just a tad too tight. Audacious ambition indeed to unlearn, dismantle, double down, to lead, mother, imagine something new into existence, dismissed as if it's ordinary. Henceforth, the decision makers will be the people who make all of the people.
Wow, thank you. So, Amanda, thank you for that incredibly thought provoking and courageous performance. Your spoken word challenged us to examine not only the expectations placed upon women, but also the subtle ways those expectations become internalized. It held up a mirror to the invisible negotiations so many women make every single day, negotiations between authenticity and acceptance. So before we continue, I just want to remind everyone to add their questions and comments to the chat. We'll have some dialogue towards the end after all the artists have presented. So Amanda, back to you. What makes your piece so compelling is that it does simply ask us the question, it asks the question of society. It asks us to question the stories we've been taught about ourselves. You remind us that leadership is not about becoming someone else to gain approval, but an invitation to live with integrity, to speak with conviction, and to lead without apology. Your work captures the persistent tension many women experience between being respected and being liked. Across cultures and industries, women are often encouraged to soften their ambition or temper their confidence to make others more comfortable. Why do you believe this tension even continues to exist today? And what do you think must change both culturally and within ourselves for women to lead authentically without feeling they must have permission to do so and feeling that we have to change ourselves?
Yeah, so I think that this tension continues to exist because of misogyny and how women too participate in holding up misogyny and patriarchy, often without even knowing it, because it's just in the air that we breathe. We all have this internalized hate for women that I think would surprise most of us the first time that we see it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. It's in subtle judgments. It's in full systems. And so first the change needs to come from within, right? So like noticing if we have imposter syndrome, let's take out that seed. Let's take that out. Let's look at it. Let's change that around. When that voice of like, who do you think you are starts to come up, like let's take that out. Who is saying that? Because it's not me. It's not your mother. So it's not you innately. So who is that? Um, and then notice when we are policing other women for their body or their clothing or their choices, because much of that judgment that we feel like came from our own preferences, it comes from the systems that are designed to keep women small and busy with being liked and being skinny and being pretty so that we don't become powerful.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that. I completely agree. Um, and it's really helpful to start to think about how we focus on ourselves to make these small adjustments to change the bigger society and the world broadly. So thank you for that. We're now going to shift to a conversation with all three of these wonderful women artists. Again, please submit your questions in the chat. We'll go ahead and get started. So, Lovey, one of the most powerful themes in your piece is the role of community. There's something uniquely isolating about living in a space between an abnormal finding and definitive answers. Could you share how allowing others to walk alongside you transformed your experience?
So I think for me, letting people walk alongside me just allowed me to have the support that I didn't know that I need and that I knew that I needed at the same time. And so it was, if there was a second set of ears listening to what doctors were saying, if it was someone sending a text message letting me know that I was going to be okay, or asking me if I was okay or how I really was doing, I think that the community for me, even if it was like people coming to watch our kids. So like I said, my husband can just sit in the waiting room while I'm sitting in a waiting room and waiting and we're separated. Or just someone sending me something to get my mind off the weight. I think that it just made my experience that much more palatable because I felt like I wasn't alone, even in moments where I felt lonely.
That's really powerful. Amanda and Damini, how has community influenced your work?
Amanda, you take that first.
Sure. I think community protects my work and it protects me because when women knowingly nod or sigh in relief when they recognize themselves in something that I've said, it really strengthens my resolve to say the things that I feel need to be said.
I'm gonna have to ask you guys, how blatantly honest can I be?
Please be honest.
I'm an actor, so one of my primary motivations is to have recognition in the community. So that definitely influences my work. But having said that, I think one of the biggest things that happens is when you have people alongside you, you're able to also deliver better work. And since I've started and people start supporting you, they'll come up with ideas, plans, support, which always enhances what you're trying to do and also helps more beneficiaries come into the fold of what you're trying to do. And I think I think Amanda brought out, we have this hatred for women, so that's somehow ingrained in us. So when you have another woman appreciating what you do, I think that sense of accomplishment or confidence just becomes higher. It's more of a validation.
Mm.
So I think community is very, very important there in
Thank you
influencing
all.
work I do for the larger community.
Yeah, so thank you all for that honesty and for sharing. I think it's pretty clear that your personal experiences have really demonstrated to you that you could create work that would make meaningful change. What I'm curious to know is that if there was someone who modeled this courageous leadership to you, and if there was someone who modeled that courageous leadership, what did it look like?
Not for me. I think only on the internet. In my personal life, I don't think that I had women who would really speak up the way that I have been able to see this modeled through the screen. And it's for all of the bad rep that social media gets, like it also does a lot of good. And it's really, I think that I can say that my community within there and seeing women who have way more strength than I did at the beginning has been really inspiring.
Ironically, for me, it's been the men around me because in India you have patriarchal cultures, but straight up from my granddad to my dad to my uncles to even my brother, I've always been made to feel like, hey, listen, you're probably smarter than 10 men in a room, or you're probably more audacious. So, go ahead and do something, and you're probably better than us at doing stuff. So why don't you go ahead and do stuff and we'll hold the fort? So that really emboldened me. For women, I think I've probably not work-wise, but I've understood that I come across so many women who are doing great work, but they have so much empathy, so much of maternal instinct. And I think that's our superpower, that while we're trying to do all these big things, we can balance it with the right amount of EQ. That's what I've learned from a lot of women that I see around me.
For me, I would say it's my grandmother. My grandmother grew up in rural Georgia, a place called Soperton, Georgia. I'm sure you never heard of it. And then she moved to Connecticut, and every family member who moved to Connecticut through her. And the model that my grandmother lives by is that she does not say no to herself to something. Somebody has to tell her no, and then you have to tell her why it's a no. And so in my life, if someone tells me no, I'm like, I want to know why it's a no. And I don't think I can't do anything. And that comes from her, of the spirit of, just because I may be a woman, just because I may be going to a different place, you need to tell me why it's a no. I'm not going to give my self-doubt myself and say it's not going to be a no, but I'm also not going to just allow you to tell me no. You need to explain to me why it's a no, so then I can know how I can make it a yes later. And that's something that I carry with me, and I try to share.
Thank you all. I love all those nuggets. And I think we're all tracking those pieces of not taking no, and making sure you're surrounding yourself by the right people that support you, and also, really that emotional intelligence and just the superpower that women have just broadly. So from our chat, I have a question. How did you first go about sharing your work and art with others? And in what ways did you find unexpected support and unexpected resistance? Lovey, we'll start with you.
Um, so I I shared my story. My husband's been with me along this journey, and so even when I was like reading my my story to him, he was like, "What about the part when you were arguing with the doctors? I think you need to talk about that part. Or what about this part?" And I like sometimes I forget some of the things that I've been through during this journey, just because it's just been ongoing for me. And so I think where I receive resistance is, I would say, like just the medical system in itself. I literally got reprimanded for not knowing my family history. And it's not that I don't know my family history because I'm not a person who cares about it. It's just that simply some of my family members don't know certain things. And to be in an office and hear a doctor talk to me like I have no common sense because I didn't know, certain things about my family history was very off-putting for me. And then to be reprimanded when I went to another hospital and that hospital found out. I didn't think that I would get so much pushback for my health, and I didn't think that I would have to advocate so much for my own health. And so I think the catalyst of my experience was that I felt like I know that I'm not the only person who experiences this. And so I wanted to hear other people tell me how they dealt with it, but I also wanted some advice from other people. Like, I know I can be fiery. What's a fiery response? What's a non-fiery response? What do I need to do to get what I need? And I think one time I was talking about it with my sister-in-law, and she was just like, it's okay for you to advocate for yourself. It's okay for you to go somewhere else. It's okay for you to upset people. It's okay. And I had to be like, okay, it is okay. Because sometimes you feel bad when you're battling against someone who they have your health in their hands, and so you feel like they're the expert and you feel like they know everything. But it's okay for you to question them and say, well, I read this. Can you tell me more about this?
Yep. Thank you. Amanda?
I think I first wrote about sharing my work just with friends who were encouraging. And then I was fortunate to find the Brattle Street Review at Harvard, and they publish a work of students and alumni. And and they accepted my work, and they were so encouraging about it that I really didn't find the resistance that I think was in my head that I was afraid to find. None of that showed up. People have either applauded it or passed right by it, which has been fortunate.
Yeah, that's even really good to hear. Damini?
I've been sharing my work since a while. I've been writing for a lot of leading dailies in India. I think I've always tried to talk about issues which are important to me. The resistance I face is with trolls because in India, as I mentioned, they're not very, very happy to let an entertainment person talk about political matters. So one of the common complaints I get, or one of the common resistance that I get is, hey, listen, just do your job and post a bikini photo. I don't want any more knowledge from you.
Mhm.
So, in fact, yesterday I received some of these nuggets because there's a political upheaval happening in India. So that's the only kind of resistance I face, or maybe from some producers who might, probably not want to associate but couldn't be bothered. Apart from that, I've never had a hard time sharing it. I think, like Amanda said, if you put it out somewhere and it resonates, kind of travels on its own and it sort of reaches where it has to.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for that. Um, so many people think you brought up politics, Damini, and so many people think change has to happen through policy and politics, and those things are important. Yet you all very clearly demonstrate that work via art, science, education, culture may be equally powerful. Where do you believe lasting change really begins?
Thank you, Malika.
Mhm.
The question that you bring up is something that I've been advocating a lot. Lasting change begins in each person. I don't think politicians can do something if your general population is not willing to accept that. I don't think systems can work if people don't believe in those systems. The lasting change has to come from within that person, and that's the toughest change to bring about. I can bring a computer to you. Can I put in the will to learn? Maybe not, or maybe I'd have to work twice as hard to do that. So if we're able to convince somebody that a change needs to come about in their psyche or in the way they look at things, then we're looking at real change and lasting change.
Amanda?
Yeah, I think that it does have to come from within, and being willing to be so convicted and to have your resolve, and whether that's in knowing who you are and what you stand for, that it doesn't matter what resistance you come up against, you're still willing to stand for that thing that you believe in. And that can be a really hard place to get to. But once you get to the other side of that, I think there's a freedom that you feel personally, and you're able to make the changes that you want to see.
Mm. Lovey?
I agree with what was said, but I will say I agree. I think that change happens for policy of the conversations like we're having. I think our conversations can change policies and enhance policies or improve policies. And I think our conversations about policies can make changes as well. And so I think that we can improve the practice by knowing the policies and discussing it, but policy can be improved by hearing our conversations.
Having the right people, of course, having
Yes,
those conversations at the table, making those
absolutely.
changes. Yes, influencing those
Absolutely.
spaces. Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially making sure that the people are at the table who the conversations are about. So not
Yes.
having women's health conversations without any women at the table is not helpful.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for that. So each of you is working within systems that weren't necessarily designed, as we've heard, with women really at the center or even sometimes in mind. So what assumptions or systems are you yourselves actively trying to challenge? And of course, Lovey, I'm going to go back to you because we know what you're actively trying to challenge, but are there any other systems you're actively trying to challenge?
So I definitely am trying to challenge the idea that we have to fall apart in public before our pain gets recognized and before our pain is seen as serious. And that's not just in the health system, but in higher education, at work, and all systems. And it seems like we are rewarded when we hold it together and ignore how we feel. But as soon as we say how we feel, or we say that something's wrong, or we start to fall apart, or we start to challenge the system, then people feel like it's wrong for us to advocate. So I feel like being a higher education professional, with all the things that have been happening with women in higher education, I feel like I'm fighting that system oftentimes. I feel like I fought the healthcare system when I had each one of my sons, and then now going through this journey. So I just feel like I'm always fighting systems that challenge us, that say that unless we are falling apart and unless you can see the hurt or the experiences that we have, that we don't deserve any attention, I want us to know that no matter what we're going to, we deserve to be seen and be advocated for.
Damini?
I think what I'm trying to challenge is that women have to choose, and they have to fit in a predefined role. I definitely don't want any more women to feel pressured to do that. So that's what I'm actively really trying to advocate through my work, through the way I live my life, through my conversations, through my pieces, through the roles I pick up. And yeah, that's the aim. Let's see.
Amanda?
Yeah, it's pretty niche, but I'm trying to challenge how women have been excluded from medical research since the beginning of time. And currently, in this psychedelic renaissance, women and postpartum women, so mothers, are excluded from something that the science shows can be very promising. So we know that psilocybin helps with trauma and addiction and depression and anxiety, things that women are prone to if with maladaptive trajectories postpartum, and yet we are excluded from the research. So I'm really advocating for change in that space.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you all so very much. I am going to, so we have some time to see if there are a couple more questions. We have sort of a wrap up and some closing remarks. I'm going to make sure we leave time for that. So I want to thank you all for such an enriching conversation. It has been very informative for me. I'm looking at everyone online. I'm seeing a lot of head nodding and agreeing and really sort of appreciating and understanding what you're saying. So I am going to now turn it over to Ray to close us out for final remarks and some additional comments and potentially maybe some more questions in the chat. So Ray, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Malika. That was so thoughtful. That was so powerful. And thank you, Shanika, Damini, Amanda, for sharing your important work with such honesty and courage. I am Ray, and I'm also a member of the programs team.
The pieces we've heard today are more than just a collection of stories and poems. So they're a very powerful reminder of perseverance, of resilience. And as I listened today, I also found myself thinking about how change begins in a very personal place. It can begin with fear, it can begin with ambition, it can begin with pain, hope, or even a quiet decision to keep going. But when a woman gives voice to that experience, it can reach far beyond our own life. And so each piece gave us a different window into what it means for a woman to choose herself, to trust her voice, and keep moving forward even when the path is so difficult. And so I encourage all of us to carry all of these lessons from the story beyond today's conversations, even if it's, amplifying the voices of those who are unheard, advocating for education or equality, or just simply acknowledging the power of perseverance in our own lives. We all have the ability to truly make that difference. And so I believe that today's reflection should not end with this Zoom meeting or this conversation platform. So the words we've heard today can continue to work in us and with us. And so they can challenge us to think about women whose stories are still unheard and the changes that we can help to make in our own homes, in our own workspaces, schools, communities. And so before I pass it on to Eleni and Shan for the next segment, please now just think and be very thoughtful. Take that moment to complete the sentence in the chat box. So I'll start with a prompt. And my prompt is: women are agents of change because they do not wait for systems to include them. They build, they challenge, they transform those systems from within and beyond. So please, there are no perfect answers. Just share whatever comes to your mind as you listen. It may be one sentence, it could be a phrase, it could be even a word. Just think through, and I'm going to wait in the chat for a few seconds to watch what's coming up. So please start. Thank you. Awesome. Women are agents of change. Yeah, report. Thank you. Inner strength. We tell stories even when it's labeled gossip, and through that, we save each other's lives. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. They care. Awesome. Keep it going. Just keep it going. We matter. Thank you, Sarah. Sabine, we look out for each other and uplift each other. Awesome. Lisa, the existing table wasn't built for us. Women are agents of change because they stay the course and refuse to give on their families and loved ones. They use their connections with others to raise others up because despite the millennia of patriarchy, we refuse to submit. Awesome. We inspire. Awesome. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Damini, we're gently strong. Awesome. Gently. Oof. That's the experience they carry in their hearts inspire them to act ethically, powerfully, and for the good of others. Awesome, Nina. Thank you, Nina. We're superpower. Awesome, Malika. Thank you. Because they had to build power, not inherit. Thank you, Salma. I love this. Keep it coming. All right. So please continue to add your reflections to the chat. Even as we move into the closing part of the program, I know, and I know all of us know this has been so thoughtful, for many of us, deeply therapeutic, this space. And so I'm so happy that our words matter. So we're also going to use these reflections as a feed forward, and they will help to inspire and guide our future programs and conversations and our creative spaces. So please keep sharing. Something you write today may become the starting point for another meaningful conversation tomorrow. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Jan.
Sorry, Ray, I was going to say we have a few more minutes. If
Okay.
anyone wants to unmute and speak up or raise your hand, we'd love to hear from you. I know I'm very moved by this entire session today. So if anyone has something that they're really inspired by or want to actually unmute, and we'd love to hear your voice, we have a few minutes before our closing if you'd like to do that.
Awesome.
Anyone, please? The mic is yours. We're just emotional. We're emotionally aware. Thank you. Because resume the past, live in the present, and fight for the future. Thank you, Annie.
Do any of our three women artists today have any final comments or anything that they'd like to share outside of the questions we asked?
Yeah, I just, can I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
I was hearing the other two pieces for the first time. I've read them before, but to really see emotion behind them was something. I think what Lavi shared is deeply personal, and I think it's really inspirational. So we need to put more of that stories out because, like she rightly said, we focus so much on the bigger issues that we forget that, hey, if it's something that isn't really alarming, you're not allowed to feel bad about it or worried about it, and to know that you have support there or you're not alone. I think that would help a lot of people. So I do feel there needs to be some exchange to even address those issues and kind of put that support out there more often and on more seemingly not so big issues.
Thanks, Amini. Levy or Amanda, do you have any other additional comments?
Same here. I think it was my first time I read it, but just hearing you all, hearing your stories, I think it's just important that like no one defines what it means for us to be a woman. We define that for ourselves. And I think hearing both of your stories, it reminded me of that. Like no one gets to tell me how I should feel, how I should look, how I should dress, how I should respond, how smart I am to do X, Y, and Z. So I really thank you for sharing that and putting that reminder in my spirit.
This has really made me want to find more places to hear women's stories like this because it's all so powerful and something that I wish that I was a touchstone that was more frequent in my life.
I agree. Definitely. It's these stories that make that connection and give us all strength actually at the end of the day to stand up for ourselves, to be our own advocates, to make sure that we're engaging in the world in the way that we desire to and freely. So thank you all so very much again for sharing your stories and being open to share your work with us.
We have Salma. Salma, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I have a question for our three artists. So first of all, it was very inspiring, your pieces. I loved it. And I have one question. If you were mentoring your younger self, is there one thing you would insist you did differently?
Can I take that first?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
100% I'd be like, don't wait for permission. Do not. Just go ahead and do what you want to do, whether you feel ready, you don't, whether people tell you you can't do it. Just stop waiting for somebody to tell you that it's okay to do it and you're allowed to do that. I wasted so much time doing that.
Yeah, I think I have a similar reflection. All of the things that you're worried you're going to lose, if you speak up, you're going to lose them anyway. So let's lose them sooner because they don't serve you in the long run or anything that you're trying to do. So go ahead and just let those go by saying what you want to say and get there a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. I love both of those. And don't worry about the no. If somebody tells you no, make sure they explain to you why it's a no, but don't stop yourself from doing anything because you're afraid to hear no.
Thank you very much.
Eleni, over to you.
Hi, everyone. And my name is Eleni, and I'm calling in from Mykonos, Greece. Welcome from here to all of you. Thanks to everyone for this truly wonderful discussion and for joining today. And before I do the final close up, I think that everyone is here because we understand how important it is to uplift one another. So I hope that each of you will share this uplifting experience with 2, 3, 5 of your friends and encourage them to participate in our upcoming events, because supporting each other in moments like this, where sometimes we feel that it's hard to make time to do this, will actually help us all do all of the wonderful things we want to do in our lives. And I think we all understand why and how we can get there. So maybe we can accelerate that by growing more quickly in numbers. If you have a suggestion for any future events also, please send an email. I posted earlier in the chat the address. It's programschair@globalwe.org. If you'd like to lead a discussion for that event, you're more than welcome. You let us know. We'll also send you a follow-up email requesting your feedback and giving you information about upcoming events. And we're always looking for globally focused events. So if there's a topic, a speaker, anything you're passionate about, and you'd like to plan an event around it, please connect with us. Send us an email to that same address, and we would love to take a look at it. Our programming themes are freedom from violence, education, health, political rights, and economic empowerment. And that's it.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to join GlobalWE, if you're not already a member, please do so by going to our website at globalwe.org. And also please sign up for our newsletter. You can also follow us on our social media, on all platforms at globalwe.org. And as Eleni said, please do send us your ideas via email through programshare@globalwe. We'd be happy to host you. We are so grateful that everybody could join us today. Thank you very much for attending. We look forward to your participation in our next event. Keep an eye out for our emails and our newsletter. And thank you for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day and evening.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.